welcome to Free Your Voice.
Well, thank you for having me, Dustin. I'm excited to be here.
Generational curses. I have an aunt that swears by them. What do you think?
Well, it's interesting that you asked that because my sister had two daughters. And I remember my mother, when she was a child, always saying, I hope one day you get a daughter just like you. And I think she did, for better and for worse, right? Like all the things that are great and all the things that are difficult. So I don't know, do they exist? Maybe. I think DNA is just a really strong force. And sometimes we just can't help but maybe repeat some of the mistakes of our ancestors, and maybe that looks like a generational curse.
Triggering. One of the things that on my travels, the more I travel, it seems to like trigger new things in me. You travel a lot. What's been triggered over the years?
Oh, my wanderlust. I mean, I my husband always jokes around that I literally cannot land in another city, another country, another culture, and not within like an hour be like, I could live here. He's like, of course you could live. Like I could be anywhere. But I think there's an old expression. I don't remember. Maybe it's Anthony Bourdain who said the best antidote to racism is travel. Right, the best antidote to ignorance is travel. And I think when we travel, you can't help but learn things about other people, learn things about yourself. And for me, it just triggers like an insatiable hunger for more. I want to see, I want to do, I want to try more things.
But you seem to be able to get to this place, and I loved your book, where you can become comfortable being uncomfortable. Because I find that our fellow Americans, a large portion of them, they're frustrated that they remain on the menu as opposed to being at the table. So, how do you get to a place where you're comfortable being uncomfortable?
Well, how do you define that, being on the menu as opposed to on the table?
Well, I clearly see you as somebody that is at the table. You know what you want, you are hyper focused to get it, and you can see through most of the smoke and mirrors and the optics of people around you. Whereas a large portion of people, candidly, they're on the menu and they don't even realize or know, or maybe they've just come to conclude that it's okay to be there.
Well, so I think there's like three different types of people. I think there are people who understand that there's a game that's being played and they sort of get the rules and they're figuring it out as they go along. And then there are people who understand that the game that's being played, but they think somehow they're above it or they're too good for it or they're pure in some way, so they're not going to take part in it. And then I think that there are people who don't even know that there's a game being played. Right. And those are the ones who they don't even realize life is passing them by. And I think at some point you go through, like, you're young and you're ignorant and you don't know there's a game being played. Then you sort of get a little bit older and you think you're like too good for like the way the older people do it. I'm going to be better than the generation ahead of me. And then you get a little older and you're like, oh, yeah, right. The door opens from the inside. So if I'm not actually playing the game, if I'm not using every bit of privilege I have to get to where I want to get to hopefully open doors for other people behind me, then it's just not happening, right? There's that expression, right? If you're not at the table, you're on the menu, as you said. And if you're on the menu, like someone's eating your lunch, like that's, you're getting taken advantage of. But I don't think we have to take it as far as like either you screw someone or you're getting screwed, because I think that's like an overcorrection. And I think those people end up in this sort of scarcity mindset idea. So the way I think about it is that you are always on the menu and always at the table at the same time. You're just at the table before the table you want to get to, and you're on the menu of the table you want to get to. So you have to continue to keep finding your way from menu to table, from menu to table. But just for me, it's not a question of if you're on the menu or if you're at the table. It's whether or not you're pushing towards the table you want to get to. And I think very often we spend a lot of time pushing towards tables that other people tell us we should get to because it's just the next course, right? Like, just a funny analogy. My father used to always order dessert first. He'd just like, life is short. I'm going to order dessert first. And if I'm still eating by the time the main course comes, great. So like, there's no rule that says appetizer, main course, dessert. He's like, I'll have the dessert first, then I'll have something else. And I think we just have to decide what order we want to come, the menu to be, and what tables we're looking to go to next. And then I think it doesn't matter if you're on the menu or the table, as long as you're always pushing towards the place you want to go to and not just somebody else pushing you.
I like that perspective. You also say in your book to put yourself in a position to create what we would refer to as good luck. How do you do that exactly?
So I used to think that people were either born lucky or not born lucky, right? Obviously, like if you're born into North America versus, sub-Saharan, Africa, poverty, et cetera, right? There's places where there is more luck than other places. But just assuming we're all talking about North Americans who are watching the show, we think that some people are lucky and some people are not, but it turns out that there is a science behind this. Like, I didn't know about this, so I did a whole bunch of research, and there's a science behind making your own luck. And the way people are luckier is that they act like we think lucky people act. They put themselves out there. They say yes to more things. They believe things will work out in their favor. They try new things. They experiment. They're extroverted. And so all the things that people do, being extroverted and assuming things are going to work out more and saying yes, that puts you in the deal flow. And what I mean by the deal flow is, it means if I went to an event because I assume that it's going to work out okay, right? I'm not going to be in the corner. I'm not going to feel awkward. I'm not going to know, what to say or who to talk to, but I assume it's going to be a good event. I will go to the event. I'll have more conversations. I'll meet more people. And then the very next day, when somebody I met gets asked, do you know somebody who'd be good for this job? Suddenly, I'm top of mind. So I'm in the deal flow in their mind. And what happens is, if we don't do that, if we say no, if we're introverted, if we don't try, if we don't go, then we don't put ourselves in the position where opportunity can find us. So they say, like, success is when luck meets preparation, but opportunity has to find you, and it can't find you if you're staying home. Now, I'm a raging introvert, so I will have one-on-one conversations all day long, but you ask me to work a room and I'm like curled up in fetal position. It's terrible. But so for all of my fellow introverts out there, what I'm going to say is, you don't have to be an extrovert, but you have to act like an extrovert for certain periods of time, for certain events. So time limited. You go to the event, you have your goal. Maybe you have an extrovert buddy that drags you around, but we have to sometimes act extroverted in order to get all the opportunities that those squeakier wheels tend to get.
You are clearly a high performance individual. And when you are meeting other people, it must be kind of challenging because they are not on the same, let's say, vibration or frequency, whatever you want to refer to it as you. So, how's it been over the years for you? Because the more knowledge, the more you're reading, the more you're writing, the more you're learning. It does have a way of disconnecting you from a good portion of the people around you.
In their opinion, maybe, but in my opinion, no, because I am still the same uncomfortable, awkward, spastic girl who got bullied in middle school inside of here. Like, I went to computer sleepaway camp when I was 13 years old, and I still didn't kiss my first boy till I went to college because I looked exactly like you would think computer sleepaway girl looks like. And so did the boys. So, there is that person is still inside of us, but from the outside, people see me. So, my younger son is a freshman in college, but a few years ago, I'd had my speaker reel redone, and in my speaker reel, I'm on Good Morning America and the Today Show, and I'm wearing head to toe yellow, and I'm striding onto stage, and I'm full of confidence. And in reality, I'm like standing in my kitchen wearing sweatpants with my hair in a ponytail on the top of my head. And my son comes home from school. He's like in 10th or 11th grade, and he watches the speaker reel, and he just cackles the entire time, like cackles. And at the end of it, I was like, what? What's wrong? And he's like, who the hell is that person? He's like, that's not you. He's like, no wonder people are intimidated when they meet you because they think you're LGO on stage when really you're just Laura. So I think we get really intimidated by other people because in our minds, we've decided who they are. Right? We've decided who somebody is in our minds. And so we elevate them to this place where we say they are above us, they are better than us, they're a high performer, higher vibration, etc. When in reality, a lot of them just have the same arguments with their teenagers, just in nicer cars, right? We're the same people. So what I have learned over time is that people will have an impression of me that puts me on a different level than them. And I have to approach those people with more and more empathy and patience and curiosity because there is something great in every single person we meet. Every person you meet every single day knows more about something than you. And I feel like it's your job every single day to figure out what that is. Because I never want to be the smartest person in any room. That means I'm in the wrong room. So my job is to be curious, to be interested, to listen more than I talk so that I can actually learn and continue to get better and continue to vibe higher. But I can't do that if all I'm doing is, smoking my own grass, right?
It's
People still
challenging.
say that.
Yeah, I think they do. I've done over 400 interviews and meeting some of the world's brightest minds, most unique, dynamic, creative, crazy, whatever you want, but it changes you in the process. So, this book for you, how did it change you?
How did writing Wonder Hell change me? It kind of liberated me in a way. So I went into writing Wonder Hell because I found myself in Wonder Hell, right? Wonder Hell being this moment where everything is working, you've succeeded in something you didn't know that you could succeed in. It's amazing, it's exciting, it's humbling, it's wonderful. And in that success, you see a version of yourself that you never thought was possible or maybe available to you. And it's exciting and it's humbling, but it also fills you with doubt and uncertainty and imposter syndrome and doubt and fear and envy and exhaustion. It's kind of hell. It's Wonder Hell.
Are you, like, following me? Are you in my head? Like, how did you know that's the stuff that Dustin Plantholt has to deal with on a daily basis?
Here's the funniest thing. So when I was describing this book, this idea to people, I described it from everyone from uh, my running partner, who was one of the first female partners in one of the largest private equity funds in the world, to my hairdresser. And every single person I talked to was like, I think I'm in Wonder Hell. But the conceit of the book is that every one of us at all times are in Wonder Hell because we're always in between who we were yesterday and who we're about to become tomorrow. We are always constantly changing and evolving. So we're always in Wonder Hell. And so I interviewed 100 different glass ceiling shatterers, Olympic medalists, startup unicorns, like all of the amazing high achievers I could find. And what I learned was that there's no way out, which was horrifying because I thought I would figure out, like, how do I get through this moment of Wonder Hell? But it was also liberating because what I realized was that if it's not about surviving these moments, it's learning to thrive in them, because the other side of this Wonder Hell is just the next one and the next one, if we're lucky, the next one after that. And so in a way, you mentioned that I'm comfortable being uncomfortable, and the only reason I'm comfortable being uncomfortable is that I realized through the writing of this book that that's actually the state of normal. We're always all uncomfortable. It's just that some of us think we can beat it, and some of us realize we just need to learn how to flow in it.
I love the way you just put that because it's this flow. So for you, is it ever enough? And should it ever be enough? Because my wife says to me from time, like, is it ever going to be enough? And I'm like, no, I set bigger goals. I want to go after things that are impossible or seem to be impossible.
It depends on what the it is. So I am now 53 years old. I mentioned I have two kids. They're both in college. My husband and I have been married for 26 years. We're at that age where we're like, let's think about what retirement might look like. Let's think about what empty nesting feels like. Let's think about the next iteration of our lives. So, of course, we're thinking about that. But in that, we're not thinking bigger money, bigger jobs, bigger titles. We're thinking more intentional family time. We're thinking more interesting, longer, deeper, more adventurous vacations, right? So, the enough, bigger, better, faster, more, it for me, like, I'm a hungry person. I'm always going to want to try something new. But I've run 7 marathons. I'm about to run my eighth next March. It's going to be the last of the 6 Abbott majors, the major marathons. Incredible. I'm not going to keep running marathons. I feel like that's a good done, right? Like, I've run all 6 major marathons. Cool. What's the next goal? I might go super hard and super deep at the next thing, but I'm not going to keep trying to chase a faster and faster time because I'm just getting older and older, right? So I think the bigger, better, faster, more stays with us. It just where the field of play changes. And so I think it's okay to have that hunger, that curiosity, that interest, that drive. That's why we exist. That's why our species has evolved to be where it is. We all have that innate in us. But I think making sure that the field of play continues to change and that field of play actually matters to you, because you can't be insatiably hungry for somebody else's goal. But what is the thing you care about today? So continuing to chase the bigger car, the bigger boat, the bigger house, the bigger title, the bigger whatever, or the smaller size or the faster number or whatever that thing is, I think that's a fool's errand. I think you should continue to chase curiosity. There's two different numbers. There's the need to make number and the want to make number. This is the number I need to make in order to pay my bills, to put food on the table, to pay for kids' schools, etc. And then above that is the want to make number, which is how many vacations am I taking? How fancy are those vacations? Am I giving back to the community in what way? Am I cleaning up the park, or am I paying for a whole new park to be built? Right? Like, what do those things look like? And in between the need to make number and the want to make number, for me, used to be ego, right? It used to be ego. And now that I'm at this stage in my life, the number between the need to make and the want to make number, I consider success if that is driven only by joy and curiosity. But everybody's different at every age and at every life stage.
So how do you find the courage to free your voice? because you have this unique way of saying what you think without fear of what others might say about it. So, where does that come from? Or give us that secret ingredient.
Yeah, I have a lot of fear about what other people are going to say. I've just decided that some of those people don't matter. I think we carry a lot of people around us all the time in our lives, right? They're like our parents who love us and they don't want to see us get hurt. Then there are the people who are kind of our froligs, right? The frenemies, the ones who are envious and they're sort of smiles in the front but knives in the back, right? Like when we rise, they only see their own stagnation, right? So they give you that like, "Oh, I love that for you." Or like, "Are you sure you can do that? Are you sure that's okay?" Then there are the people who they're scared, right? You tell them your big, hairy, scary goal, your voice, you give it to them, and they're like, "Oh, that's too scary. I wouldn't do that." What they mean it's too scary for them. So I think a lot of those people will give us their feedback, and that feedback comes in the form of a muzzle, and that muzzle quiets us, it holds us down, it scares us. And those little cancerous droplets they put in our brain about like, are you sure you should do that? You might fail, it might not be good, people might not like you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. As soon as things go wrong, those things start to bloom in our brain, and we're like, oh, that random high school person I ran into at Starbucks clearly knows what's best for me because they were right. And that quiets us. And so I think if we want to free our voice, we have to start remembering who we are, what we care about, and all those people that don't matter shouldn't matter. We have to stop giving votes in our lives to people who shouldn't have voices. And that especially goes for the younger version of yourself that's inside, that has maybe some trauma, who has some lingering rejection issues, who has some uncertainty from all the times where maybe things didn't go so well and there might have been some emotional injury. And just to let and understand that, you can let that voice out because nobody's really paying that much attention in the end. In fact, my favorite Eleanor Roosevelt quote is, "We would worry much less about what other people thought about us if we realized how seldomly they did."
Wise words.
Your voice can be pretty free because nobody's actually paying attention.
Thank you so much, Laura, for joining us and for your voice.
Thank you so much for having me.